Well, all right. So I just watched Squid Game season 2 and I wanted to talk about it. So I don't watch a ton of television, but I did really enjoy the first Squid Game back when it came out. And so I was somewhat excited for the second season. Now, I was also not necessarily expecting the best, just given the fact that a lot of times these things don't go particularly well, right? The creator of this, which is Hwang Dong-hyuk, maybe is how you say his name. Apologize if I mispronounced it, which, pronunciations, I'm bad enough with English pronunciations, so doing my best here. But he came out and announced that he didn't really have an idea for a second season in mind when he made the first one. It started off as a concept for a movie. It ultimately became a TV show, and it seems like more or less what happened was American audiences got a hold of it, and Netflix basically said, hey, here is a blank check if you want to come back and give us a second season. And he said, all right, let's see what I can come up with. And I have to say, came up with some good stuff. I mean, I think this was a pleasant surprise, and especially these first few episodes. I thought they really did a great job at continuing the story, because it's a tough balance, right? You don't want to just do the same thing again, because then it feels like a rehash of the first one, but you also don't necessarily want to make it completely different, because then you're getting rid of what the fans love, which is ultimately the do or die games. I meant to mention this at the top, I'll mention it now. I'm not going to get into spoilers yet. I will do a spoiler section. I will warn you before we get in there. So this is just my spoiler-free thoughts. Although I do kind of have something that's a bit spoilery, but I think it's okay. It's something I would have liked to know going in, which is this very much is not a full season is how I felt. It feels like I watched half a season, and I think you quickly realize, or not quickly, but at a certain point you realize we're not getting the full 6 games in this season. There isn't enough time to make this work. So just kind of know that going in. The third season is apparently coming out I think it might even be as soon as June. So it's coming out this year, which, really makes you wonder why they even called it season 2 and season 3, and why not just call it the first half of season 2 and then the second half of season 2. I think if I went in with those expectations, I would have probably enjoyed it more. Because that was probably my biggest frustration, was we're not getting a full show here. And I do get annoyed when these things happen. I know that, and it's part of why I don't always watch a ton of TV. It sometimes feels like the goal is simply just to get me to watch next week or watch the next season, instead of just make a great product itself, which does kind of annoy me. Probably why I prefer movies, because they tend to not have that, although they have those as well. Like Wicked was very much, his first part, all that stuff, right? So I do think this would work better if it's a binge watch. If you're watching this video 10 years from now and you just found out about Squid Game, and we're on Squid Game season 13 at this point, and you're going back to watch people's thoughts as it was airing originally, I do think this could age a little bit better, because I do think there was a lot of really good sequences here. So we do see some, I guess what I'll do now is I'll describe what happened and how we, what to expect for this season. So if you don't want any plot spoilers whatsoever, I would tune out now. I'm not going to spoil what big details, just going to describe what happens in this season, as in what the setup is for this season. So Jihan, who was the winner of the first season of Squid Game, he now has come back, and they create a trap where first they're trying to catch the masked man, but the plan B is there's a tracker that he's put in one of his teeth, and if he gets caught, he's going to say, let me play the game. The idea is he joins the game, they have tracked him, and they can find out where the island is and put an end to the game. They being, there are a bunch of armed military people, or even it seems like there's some criminal people that he knows as well, and that's kind of the crowd he has gathered. They will then help find where the island is. This is, of course, also one of the people in that group is the detective who we saw back in season 1, the detective whose brother is the leader of the Squid Game. Personally, this decision really worked for me, I thought. It was a cool idea for Jihan to kind of volunteer to go back into the game as a trick to try and, set the trap, but then it doesn't work out, which essentially means that he is now stuck in the Squid Game again, as his crew is now trying to find where the island is. This was a choice that really worked for me, because again, let's just be honest, you need him back in the game. Like, the show doesn't really work if he's not in the games. But at the same time, how do you make that work? How do you justify it? Well, they decided to justify it this way. I thought it was a choice that worked for me. You do see one of the same game and then some new games. You see red light, green light here, which is just it's an incredible sequence. It really is. I think that's one of those things that just it really works. The silence that they have and the twist on it this time was another decision I thought really worked. I think I'm probably starting to get into spoilers here. I might have even said too much, so why don't I just call it now? Let's say a spoiler warning from here. If you have not seen Squid Game, I will say you should check it out. If you enjoyed the first one like me, if you're a big fan of that, it's worth a watch. Although, shouldn't feel like you're in a hurry to watch it, because like I said, you're probably not getting it doesn't feel like you get a complete season out of this, and I'll get more into why in spoilers. But yeah, okay, spoiler warning, 3, 2, 1, you have been warned. So the red light, green light, part of why it really works for me, I think, is just, and this time what I really liked about it was the fact that he was kind of warning people ahead of time, hey, we're going to die here if you don't win. They, of course, don't believe him. They're like, that's kind of a crazy thing to say. And I think that new dynamic, again, it's kind of a perfect situation where it's the same thing, it's the same game, but it puts a new wrinkle on it, so it doesn't feel like a rehash of the first one. And I thought it added more suspense, because you're sitting there the whole time just wondering, like, is this going to go wrong, and when is it going to go wrong? You knew at a certain point the shoe was going to drop, and I think we all remember from the first one, there was that crowd of people that rushed for the doors, and it's like, are they going to do that again, or is this group going to be better and not rush for the door? Of course, they do panic, because people are going to panic in a situation where they see people die. That's kind of what happens. So, that was really well done. I do have a couple of, really one key nitpick for this. I didn't love the editing in this, specifically. The first part of this sequence plays with no music, which I loved. I love how a lot of times these games don't have music because you don't need it, and it adds to tension, makes it feel a little bit more real when all you're hearing is the sound of gunshots, right? They did then with Thanos the Rapper, who we'll get into. He's a very fun character, but when he starts to do his craziness, they do like this like pop hip hop music, which I don't know if, and it kind of made it more fun. And I like the tension. The tension was cool for me. I would have kind of rather them just played it out that way personally. It's totally personal opinion, but I wasn't as crazy about it. They also used some slow motion stuff, which I also just thought was a little bit corny for me. Just again, personal opinion. But as a whole, sequence really works. And I also like that they just did new games, and I think it makes sense. I do wonder, like, okay, do they always mix up the games, or was just because Jihan was in there? And again, apologies if I'm saying his name wrong, but is it just because he's in there? Do they change the games, or is this what they do every season? Like, I watched Survivor. It seems like they have a few games they do every year, and then they change a bunch. I don't know if that's what happened. But I found every game, quite frankly, to be great. Like, I thought they all were really good. The new sort of, six-legged race with all these mini games, which I had never heard of, except for the one that was in season 1. All the other games I've never seen before, but they all seemed fun and added for tension. And as someone who's never heard of the games, I was still able to pick up on what they had to do. So that was super cool. And then the final game of the you picking groups. They say a number, you have to group with that number. I thought that was really cool as well. We got to see some personal dynamics. We did see a character death here, which is always part of the appeal of Squid Game as well. Is just the way the game works. You're not gonna get everyone to the end. That's not how these things are designed. Another twist they had was to the game itself. Last season, unless I'm remembering wrong, last season, the way it worked was you can always leave, but if you leave, you don't get any money. The only way you can get your money is if you get to the end of the game. This season put a wrinkle on that, which is you can leave at any moment if enough people vote to leave, but if you do, you split the money as well. So you are getting some money if you decide to leave, and that created a vote every single episode, and there's always intrigue there of campaigning and the dynamics there. Of course, they get heightened when the players realize that they can kill each other to help not just get more money, but to influence the vote as well. There was honestly a ton of very fun characters that were emerged. One of the real strengths of this show as well, in my opinion, is how it can quickly get you to get to know specific characters. Like you just almost immediately, I feel like can like the Thanos the rapper, you immediately just get who he is in, I don't know, 30 seconds. And there's this whole crowd of characters that you're just able to understand who they are. I think that's the real strength. The strength of the first season was the cast of characters. I think, in my opinion, ultimately characters are what makes the show work, and it had some great characters that time. I think, again, this season as well, a lot of really fun characters. It's not season one, and it's not going to be season one. Season one was such lightning in a bottle, they weren't going to recapture that, but I still thought there was a lot of really fun stuff here in this one as well, including the villain, the brother of the detective, who we learn more about in this season as he elects to play in the games. I saw a lot of people criticizing it, saying, like, I saw a lot of people, some weird criticisms in my opinion. Some people criticizing, like, why aren't our protagonists knowing and realizing that he's a villain in the game? Well, I get that. You could argue he would know that, it's possible because that happened to him last time he was in the games. But at the same time, like, I don't think there was enough of evidence there for him to really come to that conclusion himself. The other criticism I heard is, well, why is the masked man why did he enter the game in the first place? And sorry, I'm not using names because it's hard to pick up on the names as an American who's not used to the names, of course. But personally, I don't know. I mean, for one thing, we're going to get more episodes. We're going to get more of an explanation for this stuff. The other thing I thought that, for me, I just assumed he wanted to keep a closer eye on Jihan now that he is in the game himself. That was the conclusion I came to personally. So, yeah, I don't know. But certainly interesting stuff there. So yeah, I'm sure I have plenty more I could go on about, but I can just end it here. As a whole, I would say I was both surprised in a good way and disappointed with this season. I was immediately pleasantly surprised with, this show. Especially, I actually thought the first couple episodes were the strongest part. I mean, I can't believe I haven't talked about the recruiter and that whole thing with the Russian roulette and how fun that was. That was such a unique dynamic. The first couple episodes were incredibly strong. Not to say I think it got worse as it went along, because there's a lot of really strong stuff with the games and everything. I think what just annoyed me was I was like, okay, either we're not going to get a satisfying ending and it's going to be a cliffhanger, or we're going to get an ending and it's not going to be satisfying because it'll feel super rushed. Like, you can't end it now. So again, I should probably end this by clarifying exactly what I mean by why I found the ending so dissatisfying. Personally, I don't mind a cliffhanger. As I said, I really enjoyed the first season of this show. The first season of the show ended in a cliffhanger, but it still felt like I got a full story. It felt like, a season of a show isn't supposed to be the entirety of the story, but it's supposed to be a full chapter of a book, a full thing that I solve, right? This very much felt like half of a season. It just did. Like, to the point where I wonder if you watch season 2 and season 3 back to back, 5 years from now, if you just discover it and binge watch it, I wonder if it would even feel like you are watching a second season, or if you're just watching a continuation of the first season. So, and again, had I known that going in, I wonder if by the second to last episode, I'm like, yeah, okay, we're not getting to the conclusion here. But I think I kind of started to feel anxious. Like, are we going to get something? What's happening here? Like, I don't want a cliffhanger, because you never want a cliffhanger, right? That was kind of my thought there, and why I found it dissatisfying. It's not just that it was a cliffhanger; it was that I didn't feel like I got a full season here, which I didn't, but which is okay, but I wish they just called it Season 2 Part 1. I think it would have managed my expectations a little bit better, because, expectations matter when it comes to something like this. One thing I wanted to mention, too, is I love the direction of this. The shots that were used, there was a lot of times they would use just these long shots. They wouldn't do a ton of editing, and part of why I complained about the editing in that one sequence in the red light green light game is because for the most part they don't do that. They're very smart in how they edit and how they film this show, and I loved how sometimes they really add a sense of scale. There's a lot of tracking shots when they have all these extras that really helps you feel like you are there, and the set design, again, continues to be awesome. It has such a cool, unique look, which, a lot of it's from the first season, but I love that world. I think it's so well done. So yeah, as a whole, not as good as the first season. It was never going to be. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as the first season. It was a pleasant surprise into how good I thought it was at parts, but ultimately a disappointment in how little of that good stuff that I got. So hopefully second season comes out before too long and I feel better about how it all works. But yeah, those are my thoughts on all of this. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. Actually, I'll save real quick. I do also have a Letterboxd. If you want to follow me on Letterboxd, Jackson Kruger, it's available there. But yeah, always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.